Has something ever caused you to run away with bone-chilling fright? Have you ever been suspicious your family member might be a creature of the night? What would you do if you were woken up by a strange scratching sound on your window? Today, we test the believability of the Creature Feature Volume 1.
Welcome to Believing the Bizarre,
where we dive into the unknown and the unusual
and tell you whether or not we find it believable.
That is right. It's Tuesday. It's time for a new episode. And let's just get as convoluted as possible. We have main episodes. We have listener submission episodes. We have listener submission collection episodes. And now, today, I am dropping on you a Creature Feature Volume 1.
Yeah, we're adding to the deep lore of Believing the Bizarre.
Yes, so this is what it is. It is essentially a listener submission compilation, but I specifically chose these 4 stories because they involve creatures. Creatures of the night. We are not talking about aliens. Well, I'd assume we're not. We're not talking about ghosts. We're not talking about poltergeists. We're not talking about demons. This is creatures.
Okay, so nothing fun.
You don't think creatures are fun?
That was a joke. I was just kidding.
Okay, good.
Just kidding.
This is my favorite. I like creatures.
Creatures?
They're not my favorite horror movies. Let me get that right. Like, if I'm going to watch a horror movie, typically, like, the monster things aren't my go-to, but I do enjoy them.
When I hear the word creature, I think of creature from Harry Potter. Master wishes to die like his mother.
Oh.
It's a little bit of a deep cut.
Is that I don't know who that is.
It's the house. It's Sirius.
Oh, Sirius Black's house elf?
Yeah, it's Sirius Black's house elf.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Did you see the new show on Netflix called The Devil in Ohio?
I haven't watched it yet, but I know what you're talking about.
I want to watch that too.
Yeah, let's watch it. Let's make that our Netflix party watch always, now, forever on. I hear they talk about the Browns a lot.
Really?
Yeah, well, I hear. Oh, also NFL starts tonight. The recording of this, very exciting.
Wow, that is exciting.
Are you gonna be watching?
I might listen to it on the way home.
We're gonna be doing this, so yeah. But anyways, I'm excited. This is a new format, new type of show, same stories. It's all good. Are you ready, Charlie, to dive in?
I am ready.
Okay, so we got 4 stories. These are all listener submissions. They've been cooking, baking, whatever type of
marinating,
juicing,
something,
getting stale.
Ooh,
like the lettuce or
that's not a good one.
Spring mix you buy and you throw it in your fridge. And
fermenting.
2 weeks later, yeah, I like fermenting.
Yeah,
they've been in there for a while. Some of them not as long, but that's okay. Are you ready to start? We got the first story comes to us from Hayden in the great state of Arkansas.
Yes, let's hear what Hayden has to say.
Let's see what Hayden has to say. So this story's on the shorter side, which is fine. It's completely fine. You have a little experience, we turn into a little episode. Don't worry about it. Or a little part of a much longer episode.
Yeah, there you go.
Again, this is Arkansas, or as no one says, Arkansas.
Is there a fun way to say that?
I was actually reading a book one time that took place in Arkansas while I was riding through Arkansas to Oklahoma to visit Parker.
Cool.
One of our good friends. But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about Hayden and his story. So it's his birthday, and he was doing what we all like to do, hang out with some friends, have a good time, maybe a little drinking. Now, I didn't say what age he was turning. We'll assume he's over 21.
Sure.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they decided to have even more fun. And to celebrate his birthday, that him and his friends were going to take their airsoft guns
Hell yeah.
out into the woods and have a good old battle.
That sounds amazing. Can I come next time?
Maybe you have to travel to Arkansas.
I'll do it.
So as Hayden was roaming the woods, searching for his friends to give him a good old airsoft shot.
1-2?
I don't know. I've actually never played airsoft.
It's fun.
Have you done paintball?
I've never done paintball. I always wanted to.
I feel like it would hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, they hurt. Yeah.
One of the guns has light bullets.
One of these have 22s of them. No, airsoft also hurt.
Oh, I wouldn't know.
I never shot you with an airsoft gun?
I'm thankful that you haven't, to be honest.
No.
So he's looking around, he's trying to find his friends, he's got his gun ready, but he stumbles upon something else. Something that he claimed to be about 7 or 8 feet tall. Now he admits due to his, activities that his mind was a little fuzzy, but he also knows that this thing was big, like big, because he is 6'5", and this thing was towering over him, and he was scared shitless. It was hairy, it had glowing yellow eyes, and he said it smelled like rotting flesh mixed with dead fish.
Oof. That's intense.
The worst Bath and Body Works candle.
That's a bad one.
Hayden did turn around and run back to his truck, but not, and I feel like this is what you would do, but not before shooting it with the airsoft.
I would do that.
I love that he shot this thing with the airsoft gun. So he ran like his life depended on it, which very well could have, because I doubt this creature was down with getting shot at.
Yeah.
And he said that this creature actually got in front of him and it grabbed his truck, and he said he moved it almost like it was a toy.
Whoa.
I don't know if he means like picking it up or he was able to like slide it across the ground. I'm assuming that's what he means.
Yeah.
Like actually like shove it. But that's still crazy. I mean, that is ridiculous strength.
Yeah.
No idea how he got out of that situation.
Probably just drove.
I guess. But for 2 years, he said this beast tormented him until he was able to move away.
Did he... What? Wait, hold up. Did he abandon his friends in the woods?
Hopefully he was the only one that drove, and hopefully he wasn't that intoxicated that he would get a DUI.
I haven't seen my friends since.
He just goes out there every while, takes a bush light, pours it for the people that didn't make it.
There's like 7 or 8 just left in the woods. Fun guys.
They're still playing. They say, actually, ironically, if you go out to this forest at night, you can hear the
screams of people playing airsoft.
Yeah. You hit me. Prove it. Ouch. Why don't we play paintball?
That also hurt.
But in all seriousness, he did say that he did fall in some really hard times mentally because of this creature.
Of course.
But thankfully, he moved away, he landed a really good job, and he married his high school crush. So everything's good.
A little subtle bride there. I like it.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, and he's making 6 figures. He doesn't give me a price. All he says, I make more than you. No, just kidding. No matter who you are, it's true. I'm
glad I didn't shoot you with an airsoft gun in college, but I feel like that's some devious behavior I would have done in college. Yeah.
Are you thinking that's the story? Are you thinking Bigfoot or
skunk ape?
Skunk ape, stinky.
Some skunk ape.
The stinky skunk ape.
Because that's an Ozark thing, I think. The skunk ape.
I don't know.
We haven't talked about that particular brand of Bigfoot yet.
Brand.
Yeah, that Mountain Dew. Yeah.
So moving on to our second story by Hannah, which takes place in Minnesota, Texas, and Czechoslovakia.
Whoa, that's an array.
Yeah.
Minnesota, Texas, Czechoslovakia.
Yes. So this one I'm going to read. I got, like I said, I have 4 encounters, 2 of which are paraphrased, 2 are going to read. One, I wanted the variety. And sometimes, and this isn't a knock against any story that I've paraphrased, sometimes the longer form, I like doing it that way. But sometimes when you get a submission, it's the story, and sometimes you get a voice. And if I get a voice in the writing, I like to read it more so.
Okay.
Because sometimes like a story can be written, but it's meant to be told. But sometimes the way it's written is like, okay, read it the way it's written.
I understand that. Makes sense.
It's not always the case. That's how I feel. And I have the mic. I got the Michael Jordan, so I get to... you do too, actually. So
yeah.
You get a say.
That's okay.
Actually, you have the Michael Jordan. Mine has been actually more like a Scottie Pippen lately. That's okay. It's okay. Are you ready for our second encounter?
Yeah, let's hear it from
Hannah. Quote, werewolves are real.
Bold statement.
Let me say it again for the people in the back. For those of you that were switching chords and turning in your car or picking up your dog poop or you turn the water on when you're washing that dish, let me say it again. Werewolves are real. One more time. And then we'll continue. Werewolves are real. they don't just exist like exactly how we think it is anymore. I'm convinced my cousin is one.
Okay. All right. I'm into this.
My family are Czech descendants from this guy who had 101 families, which is a fact.
Okay.
Apparently you can Google this guy. The legend starts that he was the source of all beings human and mythical. My family line and descendants were known as the, quote, werewolves. Our family crest is based off of a wolf. Our legend is different. A man used to be able to change their body into one akin to wolf features. Though they could never be an actual wolf, there can only be one werewolf living at a time, no more. When one dies, the wolf spirit passes along to the next born in the family, and I grew up knowing this. My grandfather was the, quote, wolf of his generation. Some traits were 8 canine teeth and very sharp ones at that. You can always tell when there's a full moon, and sensitivity to heat. I used to laugh and joke around, but as I've gotten older, I started to wonder if these were facts. In 1997, July, my grandfather passed and my cousin was born the following fall. When she was 5 years old, she had to have her teeth filed down because she kept cutting her lip on them. I was told it's normal to sometimes have 8 canine teeth, yet I don't know a single other person who does. One day, when she was 6, she woke up one morning after I babysat her and said there was going to be a full moon for 5 days, starting the next night. And she was right. She despises summer, and she always runs warmer temperature-wise. Our family jokes around and calls her a human furnace. It's been that way literally for 24 years. Sometimes she used to shower as a young child when I was with her, and she would, what I would say, was snarl if the water was too warm. But I swear the water was always lukewarm, it was never that hot, and now she only takes cold showers. She always suffered from migraines since elementary age, and they always fall on a full moon. Only recently, the icing on the cake happened that makes things even stranger. My great-great-grandfather had a ring that he wore that was an inherited family heirloom with our crest on it. We recently found it amongst my grandfather's stuff. Our family is large, considering about 50 people at Thanksgiving alone. We passed the ring around, and it didn't fit anybody's finger except for my cousin. It was a perfect fit. Now, I'm not one for always believing myths and coincidences, and some details are just becoming too much. I haven't seen her much in the last couple of years as she moved to attend college. Now she lives in a state where it is eternally cold. I saw her recently on Easter smiling and having a great time. But with snow on the ground and her walking around playing with the younger family in the snow with only a t-shirt unbuttoned, my suspicions came back. Unquote. Do you think this could be a werewolf?
I don't know. Do you think she actually transforms? Probably not.
It seems more so like it's not like I'm going to turn into this hairy beast. It's more so like dealing with the side effects of what being part wolf would be like.
Yeah.
Like you don't transform, but you snarl. You run warm, like you have like the fur. Like it's almost like if you put a wolf in clothes, it'd be like, what are you doing? Like this is hot.
Interesting. I don't know. I guess so.
It's a very humanistic approach. It's like when you have like, it's like a Grimm fairy tale in a way where it's, I mean, not really, but it's like taking the mythical, taking the fantastical and like grounding it in earth. So you're like, if somebody was a werewolf, but they didn't turn into a werewolf, what features would they have?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's what this is.
Yes.
My grandma's Czech.
Is she a werewolf?
She can't be.
She can't be. There's only one in the world.
Oh yeah, not her.
And it is their cousin.
Yeah.
Listen, guys, I know it's been a minute since I've talked about trying to get to 8% body fat, but that deadline is coming up.
I've been hitting the gym too and trying to get in better shape as well.
And that is why we've both been trying AG1 Athletic Greens.
I started taking AG1 because with my other, quote, protein powders, I wasn't seeing results.
Exactly. But with a single scoop of AG1, you're getting 75 high-quality minerals, vitamins, whole food source superfoods, and probiotics.
Well, that's fine, but let's talk about the real selling point. It actually tastes good and isn't all grating like some of the other protein powders.
My suggestion, just add it to your routine, right? Like you wake up, start listening to that new Believing the Bizarre episode while you're making your AG1. And before we even start diving into the topic, you've consumed a shake that has less than 1 gram of sugar, supports mental clarity and alertness without any nasty chemicals.
So essentially, it's like a life hack. And don't just take our word for it, Athletic Greens has over 7,000 5-star reviews. And on top of all that, for every purchase, Athletic Green donates to organizations that help get nutritious food to kids in need, like No Kid Hungry.
Skip the supplements and the dozens of various pills. You can reclaim your health and arm your immune system with daily nutrition. All it takes is just 1 scoop of AG1 and a cup of water every day. That's it.
Still on the fence? To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase.
That's right. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/emerging.
Again, that is athleticgreens.com/emerging to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
So our third story, our third encounter, comes from Thomas from Lynchburg, Tennessee.
Oh, cool.
And it took place in 2018.
2018. That's
fairly recent. It's in the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this encounter comes from Thomas, who is 21 years old. He was a college student living out in Tennessee. He said he enjoyed our Skinwalker episode, which thank you, Thomas, for listening to our Skinwalker episode. And he said it actually triggered a crazy experience that he and one of his buddies named Tyler had. So he's dope with a friend named Tyler.
Yeah, it's not a very common name.
Not at all. It's like my best friend's name was Tyler. So back in 2018, Thomas and his good buddy Tyler, they wanted to go on a camping trip. As do I, but I'm not the Tyler in this story. They spent some time looking around for land or location that they wanted to travel to, but they weren't really able to find anything within their budget or with their time frame. So they hit up one of their other friends named Zeke, who they knew lived on a small farm out in the middle of nowhere. The best place to camp, right?
They think that'd be a pretty good place to camp, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see that big old RV that your neighbors have?
Yeah, it's taking him like half the road.
Yeah, I was like, man, how did Tyler talk his neighbor into buying that for BTB?
Yeah, that's our new studio / my house. It's great. It's mobile. BTB coming to a driveway near you. So they chose this also because, their good friend would be nearby. They could chill with him. But it's basically going camping for free and risk-free. They were just at their friend's kind of abandoned farmhouse because his family didn't live there anymore. They actually lived in a town nearby, but they still owned it.
Okay.
So it was just a vacant, isolated
Ooh, that could be
farmhouse.
really scary, though.
Right? Very scary. Yeah, and it's better than like just camping in your backyard, especially if you're in the suburbs. But there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's still cool.
Yeah. It's really cool if you're a toddler.
Super cool. So Tyler and Thomas pack up their tent, they grab a couple sleeping bags, and they travel to this farm in Lynchburg. They said the farm's driveway was about like a quarter of a mile, and the driveway was very, very thickly engulfed in the woods.
Okay.
And then after about a quarter mile, it cleared out to this opening where the barn was and the farm. And he said it was about like the half the size of a football field. It's about 50 yards. I don't know how long. They didn't put the hash marks down, but it was just, he was giving it the eye test. But again, despite this clearing, despite this barn and this farming area, the entire area was still engulfed by woods. So long driveway off the road, opening, but it's all surrounded by woods. And there's no electricity there. There's no lights. And they said there was no moon light. Like it was a new moon. So it was like
dark.
It was dark. So they said as you come up to the clearing, on the left was a small barn on the edge of the woods. And toward the back of the middle of the clearing, there's a small room which used to be attached to a mobile home. And aside from these two buildings, there was an old tree house that they used to play with, but other than that, nothing. Just endless woods, isolation, great for camping and scary stories.
Yeah.
So they set up the tent for the most part. Everything's chill. They're hanging out. About 15 feet away from the old barn, they make this fire pit. They put chairs out. They invite their friend over. They're relaxing, telling stories, having a good time, whatever. And then their friend leaves. So it's just Thomas, Tyler, and it's late. Like, they're hanging out, they're talking, they're shooting the breeze. The next thing you know, it's like 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m. You'd be asleep.
Yes.
So they're sitting there by the fire. It's crackling. You hear it. You hear the crackling fire. Chatting. And then they hear a noise from behind them, coming from the woods. And it stopped their chatter. And they turned around, and they looked, because they kept hearing this rustling noise, this little rustling. And then out from the woods popped this little armadillo.
Oh.
This little armadillo trotting out of the woods.
Doing a jump scare.
Yeah, and they said it looked just as surprised to see them. So it's like this armadillo comes out, sees them, it's like, oh shit. And then it scampered back into the woods.
Okay.
Which, exactly, not to interrupt the flow of the story, but that is the traditional horror movie fake out jump scare.
Yeah.
It is the little sister hiding in the closet to scare the protagonist. Like Hocus Pocus. It's the raccoon that's rustling in the trash can and then it jumps out, or the cat that's in the closet or whatever. Obviously, I know what happens in this story, but I wouldn't be surprised if at home you're thinking there must be some type of library, newspaper research montage in this encounter.
Feels like it's coming.
We'll see.
Okay.
But first, let's get back to the story. So the armadillo ran away, the guys are laughing, everything's good. They're like, oh, that was silly, for at least a short period of time. Not long after the armadillo left, the guys heard more rustling, more noises, but something bigger. Something that was moving through the woods near the barn. And this was significantly louder. This was not the armadillo. So they're interested, they're curious, they want to know what this could be. So the guys grab their flashlights, which could be their phones, this time. And they walk over where they heard this noise by the barn, and they're pointing their flashlights in front of them, and they're starting to scan the woods. And like I said, the moon is new. Like, it is particularly dark. Like, it is hard to see. You have, like, your cone of light coming from your flashlight, and that is about it besides the fire behind them. So here's a quote from Thomas. Quote, "As I'm scanning the edge of the woods, my flashlight comes to the corner of an old fridge leaned against the corner of the barn. And behind it, a pair of eyes are reflecting back at me.
Ooh.
My flashlight's only able to linger on the eyes for a split second before whatever was watching us from behind the barn ducked back behind the building. This obviously creeped me out, and I told Tyler, dude, I just caught an eye shine, and whatever it is, it ducked behind the building. Tyler was quiet for a moment, a little hesitant, but then said something like, oh, it's probably a deer or something, and then he brushed it off. After a few seconds of trying to see if I could find out whatever was back there, I decided to turn off my flashlight, and we went back to sit down. So naturally, Thomas was pretty creeped out.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
He's creeped out, Tyler, his friend, a little hesitant, but was like, oh, it's probably a deer, big armadillo or something. Huge ass Crash Bandicoot armadillo. But whatever, they're fine, they go sit down. So my guess, he didn't put this in here, but my guess is what really stuck out was probably the reaction. Like I think an animal, like the armadillo, like if it comes in contact with the light, it's going to have a reaction, it's going to move or something. But I think what really creeped him out was like the ducking.
Yeah.
Like it's a word we always say. It was a very intentional. It felt like, oh no, I've been seen, not like, oh, there's a light and I'm reacting to it.
Mm-hmm. Like I'm hiding from this, not.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's my feeling. I'm not saying that's how he felt. That's my guess. But at the same time, one fact is that they knew that something else was out there in the woods with them, like something bigger, and something willing to hide. So anyway, they sit back down. They're by the fire. It's crackling. But they're sitting in silence, and they're just listening to the sound of the woods. And it was hard for Thomas to read Tyler. Maybe he really did just think it was a deer. But Thomas couldn't shake off what he saw and this feeling that it gave him, and it only grew from there because just a few moments later, Thomas felt the hair on the back of his neck stand up, and he got this really heavy feeling in his chest, almost like someone placed a weight or a dumbbell on it. Just this feeling of pure dread. And he had this sinking realization that there was something standing right behind him. And it struck him so intensely that it actually activated his fight or flight response, and panic began setting in. Within a second, Thomas darted out of his seat and turned around to see what was behind him. In that same moment, Tyler raised his flashlight towards whatever it was. But the creature reacted in the same instance, and as Tyler's flashlight hit it, they could only barely see it or follow it with the light as it raced back into the woods. So stunned with their hearts racing, they just stood in silence. They watched as the branches and the low limbs swung back and forth where the creature had made its exit. In the distance, they could hear what sounded like steps, bipedal steps crunching on dead leaves, growing further and further away. They sat there for a few more moments in silence and disbelief, having difficulty coping with what they just experienced, both the sight, the sounds, and the feelings, and also trying to process it because it happened very quickly. It was about 5 seconds, a 5-second time span from when they realized that someone was standing behind them to it running away in the woods. So here's another quote from Thomas. Quote, "One of the freakiest parts was how audibly we heard the creature turn and run. Before the light came on, we heard it begin to run away, and the speed which we heard its feet hitting the ground was like nothing we'd ever heard before. It was like the sound of a rabbit running away. The speed, but if the rabbit weighed a couple 100 pounds. My buddy Tyler is 6'4", 280 pounds. He's a big man, and he does not scare easily. So when he turned to me and said, 'We need to get the out of here,' I complied." Unquote.
You didn't put the southern in that. Gotta get the out of here.
Pull out his banjo so he gets. "We gotta get the out of here." The creature of the forest goes badoo badoo.
Ring ding 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 ding.
The deep of the woods. But back to the story. So the guys quickly packed up their stuff. They packed up their chairs, their tent. They shoved it in the back of the car. Didn't even take the stakes out of the tent. So there was some major tearing that was going on here. I don't think they used that tent again. But it probably brought back bad memories. So sometimes you just got to purge.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And at this point, it's around like 3 a.m. All they cared about was getting the hell out of there as quickly as possible. And they drove to the nearest 24/7 Walmart. They parked and they discussed what happened. Now, this feels like something we would do.
I was going to say, sounds familiar.
I know, because when we had our experience, we went to Taco Bell.
Yeah.
But we park at a Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the process. So they're parked, they're sitting in their car, they feel a little bit safer, and they want to discuss what happens. And here you go. Here it is. Here is the reveal. Tyler tells him what he actually saw by the barn.
Oh my God.
And it was definitely not a deer. He tried to keep his best composure, but at this point, he decided there was no point to keep it to himself. So here is as close of a quote that Thomas could remember from what Tyler said, okay? So this is from Tyler's perspective. Quote, "Earlier, when we were looking at the woods, after you caught that eye shine, I was looking around and I saw something that looked like a gray, skinny, hunched over person run from behind the barn to behind a tree. I didn't tell you because I figured it was just an animal and I didn't want to freak you out, but after whatever happened, I knew whatever that was not an animal." Unquote. So a gray, skinny, hunched over person. Don't like that.
No.
Don't like that.
I hate that, actually, yeah.
Don't want to go to Tennessee right now.
No.
So the guys ended up crashing at Thomas's house. And the next morning, they told his family what they witnessed. He didn't say in the submission his family's reaction, but I hope they were more understanding than traditional horror movie dad.
Yeah.
And I couldn't leave you hanging, because we all know what happens next. It's the research montage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Thomas does his research, and he discovers, and I don't know, really anything about this, and I'm leaving it kind of open, because I think I want this to eventually be its own episode. So I'm very curious now. But apparently there's this cryptid in the area that's known as the Waiuter.
Oh, okay.
Have you heard of that?
No, I thought you were going to say something else, but I'm good.
What did you think I was going to say?
I thought you were going to say something called a hate.
Oh.
Which is something that I'm interested in doing an episode on.
Sounds like I hate it. No, this is called a Waiuter, and I might be saying that wrong, but I don't care because I didn't want to look it up because I want to have a full episode about it.
Yeah, for sure.
We Google it and nothing comes up.
Oh, no, I think I've heard the noise, the sound before.
Waiuter?
The name before.
Yeah, well, if I'm saying it right. But it's a local cryptid, and as you could kind of guess, it's somewhat similar to a Bigfoot. Maybe it's a Bigfoot once he has, back problems. So while they didn't know for sure, they started calling it the Waiuter. It's what they called it, and they're like, that was the entity that we bumped into that night.
That's scary.
So after speaking to their friend Zeke, remember that his family had that barn, that area, the farm that they stayed at, he told them about some weird things that used to go on out there. One of which was how his little sister used to hate sleeping in her room alone because she would always say that something would come to her window at night and watch her sleep. So let's end with a quote from Thomas. Quote, "It's been about 5 years now since this happened to us, but it's stayed with us ever since. It took about 8 months for me to return to the farm, and only during the day. Since then, I've stayed out there plenty of times and never really had an encounter again. But I have to say that when you're out there at night, sometimes you'll feel that horrible feeling start to sink in and feel like you're being watched. It turns out quite a few people in the area have heard a story of the gray, skinny, hunched-over creature wandering around at night." Unquote. So, new cryptid on the radar.
Yeah. Oh my God. That last thing about his sister, Zeke's sister, not wanting to sleep there, that took my breath away.
In a bad way.
That took my breath away.
Well,
Yeah, that's...
Or in the best way.
That was scary.
Yeah, it's just like you wake up, you look at your window, you don't want to see anything looking... Even a human. You want nothing looking in your window.
Mm-mm.
So, let's move on to our fourth and final creature feature story. So this story comes to us, ironically, from Wolf Davis. It takes place in northern Utah around 2017. Quote, "I want to start this off by saying I love the podcast so much. I'm about to graduate as a nail tech, and I love listening to these on the drive to and from town. I live in northern Utah in the general Park City area. I've lived here my whole life, hearing stories about skinwalkers and Bigfoot, and being a typical trans boy, always wanting to prove my masculinity. I have a habit of getting myself in run-in with things that go bump in the night. So as you can imagine, I have a lot of stories, so I'll probably submit a few of the best ones I can remember. But for now, this one takes place when I was about 14, maybe a little younger, but based on my memory, this was 3 to 4 years ago. For background information, I lived in a valley at the time, one that was decently populated. However, you'd commonly see deer and coyote walking down the road at any given time. So I was used to wild animals, and I didn't really fear them as much as I probably should have. I was laying in my bed, a loft bed that looked down on the rest of my bedroom, making me able to easily see my dog laying on the floor below me most nights. It hadn't gotten too far yet into the night, maybe close to 10 p.m., but not enough for me to fear going outside just yet. I can't even add that much detail to this part because it was just so silent. Just me in my bed watching YouTube, probably thirsting after Harry Styles. I remember being just about ready to call my friend to chat a little bit before bed. But as soon as I reached for my phone, I heard one of the scariest things I've ever heard to this day. You know that sound of like a dog fight where you can hear a dog screaming and yelping and it's just absolutely awful? That's what I heard within a split second. Like I said, I live in an area that's common for coyotes, so at first I assumed a dog or another coyote was being attacked by one another. But to my shock and my confusion, I realized there was just one animal that was making the noise. There was no fighting, only screaming, and it was up against my window. I could hear claws scratching at the window, banging against it, as it was getting louder and louder by the second. But almost as soon as it began, it stopped. The whole experience lasted maybe 5 seconds. And at this point, you're probably assuming it was just a rabid coyote or a wild dog, but it absolutely was not. At this point, I was, 1, thanking my past self for leaving the blinds closed, and 2, fearing it was an animal who might actually be out there and needing help. I don't know what 14-year-old me was on, but I can't remember being scared at all. Looking back, I shouldn't have done this and was probably on some sort of late night power trip, but I actually got up, grabbed my flashlight and my dog, and I made my way outside. I should point out that my dog was obviously scared and heard the same thing I did. I had enough sense in me to turn on all the lights in the house, as well as hold my dog tightly so neither of us left the front porch as I shone the flashlight towards the outside of my window. Again, I should have been terrified, but I wasn't. When my eyes focused enough, I could see light blood splatters against the side paneling below my window, but there was no trace of an animal. Alright, this could still be a rabid animal that fled when I came outside. Obviously, it had to be rather hurt for that blood to be transferred onto the side panels, but I didn't think too much of it. I just went back inside, locking every deadbolt, and heading back into bed. The next morning, I remember waking up and asking my mom if she had heard anything the night before. She said no, which was shocking. She normally wakes up at the slightest noise, and this was pretty damn loud. Regardless, I went outside to show her the blood, and it was gone. There was no sign of blood, but at the flower bed below the window, there were rotting bones. Not like something had died the night before. It looked like they'd been there for months, which was impossible since they weren't even there the night before. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was a person pulling a prank or something else. Unquote. So what do you think of these rotting bones?
I don't know. I don't know what that means. Oh, that's so scary.
You have a little bit of time to think about it because we're heading to the discussion. So before we go on, we like to stop the episode and thank our newest patrons as of the recording of this podcast, who are Cynthia, Carla, Stacy, Derek, Liam, Hector, Jessica, and Emily. Charlie, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to tell Stacy what type of content is in our Patreon.
I'd love to. They get interviews with our listener submissions. They break down their experiences more personally than we do on the podcast. We do the best we can, but they get to actually tell us. They get bizarre news, they get quizzes, they get bonus movie content, they get to do the Netflix party watch with us, and a really fun activity is the Google Hangout, where we kind of form this community with a bunch of people, and it's so much fun to talk and connect with people that just love the show. And it's not even about the show a lot of times. It's about...
Half the time it's not.
Yeah, it's other stuff. What's going on?
I'm trying to make it more about football. But also, can't forget, if you're in our dedicated tier after being a member for 3 months, automatically, for free, you get our Patreon exclusive t-shirt that you cannot buy. It can only be sent to you for being a member for 3 months. And not to brag, which I can't brag, we didn't make the design. It's pretty dope.
It's really cool.
So if you're looking for bonus content, you want a little bit more than the normal episodes we're dropping on Tuesday, go check out our Patreon. But in the meantime, let's get to the discussion. All right, so we had 4 creature features. We had the airsoft creature that was stinky and treated the truck like it was no big deal.
Yeah.
We have the submission from Hannah, who believes their cousin is a werewolf.
Yeah, that one's wild.
We have the story from Tennessee with Thomas and Tyler, where there's this creeping creature that hunched over and is gray. The Wyout?
Yoder.
Yoder. It's not. He's not the Yoder.
Yoder?
It's not. No.
I'm a fuzzy little Yoder.
The Wyouter.
Wyouter. It's Minnesota.
Work a hooter. And then we have Wolf's story from northern Utah, where we're dealing with this screeching, terrifying creature out the window, and the next day, no sign, just rotting bones.
I don't even know.
What stood out to you? What is memorable? What do you believe? What do you question? What are you feeling?
These stories are all great. They're all really, really good. Like, they all had me on the edge of my seat, honestly.
It's cool because some of it is very casual. Yeah. Some of it is backstory exposition. Some of it's just friends hanging out, playing airsoft around a fire. And then each one has a moment where you're like, ooh, okay, I'm in this now.
Yeah, they do. They all have this like, oh shit moment, right? I hate it. I hate it all.
You hate the creatures?
Yeah. Not even all the creatures, because that girl's cousin, I don't hate her. It's just spooky.
It's interesting because, and I know we already touched on it, but this is the discussion. This is when we talk about this.
Yeah.
I really enjoy how it's like, this is a werewolf, but not in the way that Hollywood makes it werewolf. It is literally a human who has wolf-like features.
Yeah, wolf traits, right?
Yeah, like, wolf traits.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a great leader.
Probably. Well, it's like if you were to personify a wolf, right?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment.
I've never heard of double canine teeth.
No,
that's the one story. There's all these stories have really good details.
Yeah.
It seems to me like no one's blowing their story out of proportion. You know what I mean?
If any of them were, it would probably be my cousin's a werewolf, but at the same time, they made it the most grounded in reality that you'll ever find a werewolf story.
Exactly, yeah.
I think it's just the abrasiveness of like someone coming up to you and be like, my cousin's a werewolf. You're like, oh, okay. But then, like you listen to the story and you're like, okay.
Yeah, I get it.
Okay.
Some ancient Czechoslovakian power going on here.
So there's 4 stories. Oh, no, hold on. Before you get to that, what do you think about the rotting bones?
I don't know, man. Because I want to hear what you think.
I don't know. I was thinking in terms of lore, if it was not human, like if you start going into witch doctor territory or something like that, like not ritualistic, but could it have been an artifact or like the animal that it used to turn into, like, they say like they carry pelts and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, now this is bones.
It's the leftover.
It's not like the, the pelts or the carcass or, anything like that. But what if that was like what it needed to become what it was?
Or even, I want to say a threat, but like a message.
Yeah.
But for what?
Open your blinds. I'm gonna peek inside. I don't know. I wish I would. I'd be interested to see what kind of bones potentially they were. But like, what do you do? And what do you do with that? You throw it away. You just like pick it up, like use a dog poop bag and pick up the bones and throw them away. Like, what do you do with that?
I would bury it.
Yeah,
in the garden.
That's probably better.
I can't help think of like the classic cartoon bone.
Yeah,
that's what I think of.
So there's 4 there's 4 levels to our rating scale.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's believable, there's viable, there's skeptical, and there's unbelievable. And there's 4 stories, Charlie.
Not saying that all story must get 1 rating. You're not saying that.
But if you had to. No, you don't have to, because...
That's good. I don't think I could.
I wouldn't put you in that spot. And normally I don't pick favorites, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to put myself out there, and this is not a knock on any of these stories. They were all chosen. Fun fact, one of the stories I put on here, and we've alluded to in the past, you'll know what I'm talking about. I put it on here. I was ready to tell it, but you got to look through every nook and cranny and make sure you don't, some people want privacy. Don't mention this, don't mention that. Mm-hmm. One of the stories that almost made our list was the one where at the end of it was like, do you believe in the bizarre permission to tell your story? And they were like, no. And it's like, thanks for submitting. I literally almost did that one.
I remember I got that one. I said to you.
Yeah, it's just
so funny.
It is funny. If you take the time to send us your submission.
I hope they're still listening because I love you. But
I emailed you if you're still listening, and I didn't get anything back.
That's a bummer.
But if you want us to be able to freely tell your story, you have to
say
to give us permission. We're like vampires for your ear bones.
Yeah, you have to let us in. Have you ever seen Let Me In?
Yeah.
I love that movie.
It's good.
I love that movie.
I would say, if I had to, which I don't, but I'm going to, my favorite story is the Wyuter, like the one with Thomas and Tyler.
Mm-hmm.
It has so much to it. You're there. It has the isolation. You get the friendship. You have the jump scare. You get the creepy, the first time you see the monster, but you don't really see the monster. And then you get the encounter, like the crux, the climax. And then you get the friends going away. I love those moments like where you feel like it's us against the world. It's you and your friend. You're away. You're telling the story. It's you and your friend. You go away and you have that like powwow. You're like, did we really just do that? What was that? What do you think? Like that moment. I love that moment. And then you get the reveal. You find out it's like it was an encounter that had a twist. Where first, it's a deer, and you believe wholeheartedly that Tyler thought it was a deer,
mm-hmm.
and at the end you get the no. Actually, it was this tall, gray, hunched over.
I set you
thing.
up.
Yeah, but it's
not on purpose.
It's a good, maybe, but I guess not. That is how it happened.
No, Zeke was trying to set them up.
Oh,
to be real.
Yeah, come on over to my house.
Yeah, there's definitely nothing creepy in the woods, idiots.
Yeah, you guys can bathe in this olive oil stuff I got. If you want to sleep with apples in your mouth.
Yeah. I was totally with you until the last story. Like, until we got to the last story, that third story, I was like, yeah, this is awesome. This is my favorite. But the mystery of the fourth story really drew me in.
With the bones?
Yeah.
That's your favorite one?
I think it is my favorite.
That's fair.
Because I really liked how it was like, I wasn't even scared.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm a sucker for research montage. And any story that's got a character named Tyler, it's not too bad, not too bad. But I agree. Fun submissions. Mm-hmm. This was our first creature feature. Maybe we'll have like an alien. We'll work on it. We got
abbreviation.
Alien
there.
anecdotes.
Oh no! Good try. Try again.
So that was our episode on the Creature Features Volume 1. Thank you to everybody for submitting. I had to I don't like reading these ahead of time because in case you tell them and I want to be surprised,
mm-hmm.
but I had to read the first few sentences.
Right.
If it was like, I live in this old house, I'm like, nope, I'm just going to assume it's ghosts. And then there was one that I thought might be a creature feature, but it might be something from not this planet. So I was okay, I'll leave that one. But, I got these 4 and, it's just like, this is what I want to do. I want to mix it up because listener submission collection is cool and all, but it's like, I think you get more of a feel. Like when you pull up your phone and you see creature feature, you might not know exactly what it is, but you get a feel for what you're getting into.
Yeah. No, listener collection is kind of like a sampler platter,
Yeah. You get the hors d'oeuvre.
But this is like, I bought the meat steak platter.
This is the meat steak. It's not like you didn't get the wings, the mozzarella sticks, and the JoJo's.
Man, I'm not...
The potato skins? Is that what
I love potato skins.
Yeah, can't
kind of hungry now.
Sorry, bro. But this was the great stories. Thank you everybody so much for submitting. Love these, love hearing them. We always say it, listener submissions are some of our favorite. And
absolutely.
Now we have a new cryptid added to our topic list.
Yoder.
Wyuter?
Wyuter.
Yes.
I knew somebody named Yoder.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know conveniently that the Bills-Rams game is starting right now?
That's great. We're almost done.
Yes, but you know what? If you want to let us know what you're thinking of the Believe in the Bizarre podcast, first of all, you can always DM us, especially on Instagram. Some of y'all Facebook message us, and that's cool. Don't look at Twitter much. I'm just being honest. Yeah, we do not.
Facebook Messenger either.
But if you want to let the world know, and not just us, you can go to Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review. Let us know what you're thinking. Oh, man, that's great. Or if you want to go to Spotify, like we know you're listening on Spotify, just hit that 5-star rating. It means a lot to us, and we really do appreciate it. Also, just because I know some of y'all are thinking about this, we have past 200 patrons.
Yes.
And it has been scheduled. It is set in stone.
October 1st.
October 1st, Charlie is getting his Believing the Bizarre tattoo.
I'm getting another tattoo that day as well. I'm getting 2.
Double tats?
I'm getting 2 tattoos that day.
Awesome. You know we're only paying for one.
Yes, I do know that.
Okay. just making sure that's in the fine print.
I did know that, yeah.
So I'll probably live stream portions of it. It's not going to be in totality live streamed, but I will be getting video, and there will be a video made about it.
I like to think I'm pretty stoic, so I don't know how entertaining that's going to be.
No, I think it'll be clips.
Okay.
Live.
All right.
Like 5 minutes at a time, 2 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be getting constant video talking to you, and so our YouTube, we will have something. I'm sure there'll be like a clip on Instagram.
Yeah, we talked to Max about it. He's totally cool with it, so.
Yes. So y'all will see it when it's done, but it is happening on October 1st. He's getting it on his not underarm.
Underarm, yeah.
Is that your tricep?
Yeah.
Tricep. Very excited about that. There's a lot of cool stuff happening, and there's this other thing happening that happens once a year. It's called Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
Not gonna reveal what it is, because y'all don't need to know, but we are doing our traditional live episode. We'll have more details about that coming up. But all exciting stuff, and it's extra exciting because you're here listening to it, and we appreciate you. We appreciate you hanging with us. As always, I'm Tyler.
And I'm Charlie.
And catch us next week on Believing the Bizarre,
a podcast as bizarre as you are. They get to do the Netflix party with it. They get to do next. They get to do. They get to do the Netflix. My. God damn.